Hello everyone and welcome to Base Basics, presented by Husky Robotics. For Base Basics, we're going to talk about a few things. First is mat orientation, followed by what is base. Next up is definitions and how they apply to the game. And the last thing we're going to talk about is alignment. We're going to talk about its importance, as well as using different ways to align your robot, including walls, visuals, and jigs. First modifies the rules with each new season, both to keep experienced team members engaged and to make sure rookies have a good experience. However, one rule that has stayed consistent from year to year is mat placement. The mat is smaller than the table by design. There's always a compass rose that gives you a north, south, east, and west orientation for the mat. The mat is always placed flush with the south wall and then centered between the east and west walls. Whenever you're practicing with your robot, you should make sure your mat placement is correct, as it can sometimes shift. For the Animal Allies season, base is defined as the space directly above the field's larger quarter circle region in the southwest corner. It extends southwest from the outer curved line to each wall and no farther, and it has no ceiling. For the Animal Allies season, the inner quarter circle had no purpose. But be careful. In the Trash Track season, the inner circle was the boundary for base and the outer circle was safety for returning objects only. Also in Trash Track, base had a specific height of 12 inches. In each year's challenge, there are specific rules and definitions regarding base. Rules are always intentionally worded and change from year to year. This example is from this year's Animal Allies season. In this challenge, items that are brought back to base need to be completely in base before you touch your robot. Otherwise, you lose the items and don't get the points. In other years, once the robot was partly in base, it was considered to be in base, and any objects controlled were also considered in base. Read and understand all the rules for each mission carefully, and don't assume the rules stay the same from year to year. The goal of robot design and programming is to make the robot's actions robust and repeatable. The first step in that process is to make sure the starting point of the robot is the same each time you run it. To demonstrate the importance of robot alignment for your team, place your robot in base and use masking tape to mark your starting point. Run a program that has the robot go the length of the table. Repeat the action several more times, observing and/or measuring how far the robot is from the original endpoint from each slight alignment change. Talk about what this might do to repeatability. The first way you can align your robot is against the walls. However, you need to keep in mind a few things. The first is mat placement. Remember, we said that the mat is always placed against the south wall and centered between the east and west walls. That means aligning to the south wall should stay the same from table to table. However, the gap between the mat and the west wall will vary, so you should align your robot to the mat and not the wall on that side. Another thing to be careful about when using the walls is friction. You want to make sure that your robot is not rubbing on the wall, especially the wheels. One solution to this problem is to add wheels to the side of your robot nearest the wall so that your robot can just roll along instead of rubbing. Another way to align the robot is visually. In Animal Allies, there are light grid lines as well as logos in base to use for visual alignment. However, beware parallax. Parallax is the difference in the apparent position of an object from different lines of sight. A good way to observe parallax is to look at an item in the distance and alternate opening and closing each eye. Because of parallax, you need to make sure you are using definite position, such as right on a line, when you choose your visual alignment marker. Wall alignments and visual alignments work best when the robot will be driving straight out of base. When you need to drive out of base at an angle, it is sometimes better to use a jig. Jigs can also help make sure you are at a specific distance from the wall. A jig is an item that you can press the robot against to make sure that you are in the same position each time. For First LEGO League, jigs must be made out of Legos, and depending on the season rules, jigs may or may not need to be removed before the robot is launched. Jigs can be adjustable, so you can align the jig to the mat along the west wall. These two axles can be adjusted to account for the gap between the mat and the west wall. We hope you have enjoyed Base Basics with Husky Robotics. Please check us out on our website and look for more instructional videos on First LEGO League.